Hi, welcome to the Leadership Lab. Top level management is not everybody's cup of tea. Today, we are delighted to share with you the journey of Mr. Rupesh Bhargava, who has been a result driven, resourceful, and a senior leader with some of the top pharma companies in India. His recent most stint was the Chief Operating Officer with Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited. He has also worked with some of the pharma companies at top level management positions, like with Sanofi as a senior director for sales and marketing, with Glenmark as a vice president for sales and marketing, and with Bezins Healthcare India Private Limited as a managing director. With 30 years of experience across all domains like pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, and vaccines, Mr. Bhargava clearly exemplifies the importance of adaptive behavior. Mr. Bhargava also emphasizes on the importance of good communication skills to create great team and client relationships in order to develop an established and a successful business. We welcome Mr. Rupesh Bhargava at the Leadership Lab. Once again, good morning, sir, and thank you so much for joining us at the Leadership Lab. I'm pretty sure the students will have a lot to learn from you and from your experience. The first question would be, what is your current profile and what are your responsibilities, sir?
Well, my current role, as I said, I have started off my own from March this year, and this is primarily into more of consulting. And I am working for some of the international consulting firms like Insight Alpha, GLS, then Alpha Insights, then Ethereum of Germany. And they in turn get the clients from McKinsey, BCG, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't get in touch with BCG directly or McKinsey directly, but they facilitate the calls, and it's quite rewarding because the kind of experience that I've gathered over a period of 3 decades, I think it makes my life a little more easier, and I want to take it a little easy now. I've done almost 32 years here in the industry, so it's been pretty long. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's time to loosen things a bit, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I do. But I also go to North Monji, I go to SP Jain, I go to this Pumba University in Pune. So at least 3-4 institutes I go, once in a while, once in 2 weeks, and try to help the people around. Because whatever industry has given me, I want to give it back to the people.
That's a very great thought and a very good deeds. Absolutely. And very nice answer. So thank you so much for this. Sir, what kind of services are you exactly providing to these clients?
It depends, because some of the clients actually are looking at from the India entry model, especially into the biotech space, which is the vaccines. Plus, there are certain companies which wants to enter into the nutraceuticals because the rules in India are very, very different from a regulatory perspective. So that's what I actually consult for them. Then I also consult them in terms of some kind of leadership roles that they want their upcoming BU heads to really take on the higher responsibility. So I actually act with them as a personal coach.
Okay.
Facilitate the entire process. So it's a 6 months kind of a project with them. Then of course anything to do with the actually introduction of the new molecules in the Indian pharma space. Then I also consult to them in terms of the clinical trials that would require actually, from a phase 1 perspective, phase 2, phase 3, and then phase 4. So it means it's like all around, because in my last 3 decades, as I said, apart from sales, marketing, distribution, finance, I have also, done a lot of work into the regulatory affairs and of course with the Ministry of External Affairs also, because I was heading 2 of the companies as the managing director. So I'm still on the board of directors for, Bezins Healthcare in India.
Oh, wow. All right.
So that's what exactly, so I keep doing all these things, which actually is actually within my domain. So it helps. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, sir. What made you start your own venture? Like what point in time you realized that let's go for an own venture? Especially after having such a successful career in the corporate sector. So what made you decide that let's go for something for yourself?
See, actually, if you ask me very, very honestly, in fact, after a certain stage, right, whatever you have learned from your experience, right?
Yes.
And And when people try to implement the theoretical part of it, and at this stage of your career, you don't want to actually listen to anybody's shit here, actually, to be very honest.
Right.
So what happens was that, there would always be conflicts. And those conflicts would only harm you actually in the long run, because if you have a positive bent of mind, you have been doing pretty well all through. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you will realize, because initially you would run after the money. But at our stage now, in fact, we don't have to run after the money runs after us.
Absolutely. Right.
So you need to decide exactly what you want. And I was very clear in my thought process that having achieved now, the next role that I could have had was possibly looking after the Southeast Asia for some of the companies. But that is not very, very attractive, because India being such a big market. So when you look at South Korea, when you look at Philippines, when you look at Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, their total field force is not even equivalent to one of the businesses that I would handle.
All right.
And even the volumes of businesses are very, very less.
Right.
And then I personally feel that language becomes a problem.
A barrier.
Because these guys are actually, they understand their own, national language. Neither they are good at English, nor they are good at any other language, or, French or German, or any of the international languages. And for us to really, communicate via this, it's quite a tiresome process and quite a time-consuming process.
Right.
So ultimately, I thought, no, it's high time. Let's do this. And you could be since I have my independent, DIN number. So it allows me to be on the board of directors, or maybe an independent director. I haven't picked up yet any kind of an independent directorship, but I was just waiting for an opportunity. But I have a couple of offers where I will have to decide how I can utilize my time, because in any case, you can only work for 6 days in a week.
Absolutely. Right.
So and everybody wants their time. They want to be there for at least 3 days in a week, 4 days in a week. That may not be possible at this stage.
I understand.
Because my plate is quite full actually at this point.
That's great, sir. Very good to hear that. So you have handled several top management positions, like managing director or the chief operating officer. So which one was the most challenging one, and why was it the most challenging?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question. I think I was with Sanofi Group for almost 26 years, and Sanofi, I was handling the pharma part of the business, and I came to know that we also have Sanofi Pasteur, which was into the vaccines, and they were stagnant, and that was in the year, I suppose, in 2008. So and both these companies were independent identities here in India. But I think that was one exception made, where I was asked to go and work for Sanofi Pasteur business, because the vaccine business wasn't doing that well for them. And when I looked at it, because they were literally operating it like a pharma model, whereas I personally felt that no, it is not required, because on one hand, the business was stagnant, and on the other hand, when I looked at the birth cohort of this country, we were still producing one Australia every year. So if that was the case, then why the vaccination is not taking place? I can understand that there were certain EPI vaccines which were free of cost to the people, but when you target, and as an MNC, you only target SEC A class. So even in SEC A class, you still had 5 million babies actually every year. So I called the team and I said, yeah, this is not working, and I think we need to change our business models. There was a huge resistance, because this is something that I see here in the industry today, that the ability for the people to change, I think there is a huge resistance. People don't want to change, and they have a feeling that what they have learned is the best, and that's period. Whereas my understanding is that even now, I at least try to keep learning, right? Because during my MBA days or during my tenures, we did not have subjects like artificial intelligence and cloud computing, and I think today the industry hasn't picked up that. So I'm actually upgrading myself to those kind of concepts now, because if I have to do my consultancy, then obviously I need to guide people in terms of artificial intelligence, cloud computing. How is it going to help the companies? what kind of savings can they do? How could they, integrate the data? What would be the, timelines where it's going to help them? So it's a life, in my opinion, is a continuous evolving, process, and you need to continuously upgrade yourself if you want to be in the system.
Absolutely.
So I did that, and we multiplied our business 5 times in 4 years.
Great.
And I think that was quite a challenging job, because we created some model which you would not hear it from any management, teacher, or you would not read in many management books. We created a birth cohort model.
Okay.
And then we mapped it with the pediatric population density of that state. And based on that, we also looked at that how many pediatricians are there in that state. So what's the workload that a pediatrician has? And how can we facilitate the process of vaccination to this? And it really helped us, because unheard of in industry, we created a brand called Pentaxim, which became a 160 crore brand in 4 years' time.
Wow. All right.
Which is still a world record, I would say, because the OPPI out here in India, as I'm sure you are aware of that, OPPI awarded us for that particular model.
Oh wow! All right, great. Absolutely.
And of course, within that segment, we had a challenge of launching a flu vaccine. Because India, like say for example, if you take the example today, if coronavirus vaccine comes in, even a barber is going to vaccinate.
Absolutely.
But once the tempo goes down, then nobody's bothered. In 2008, India lost 78,000 people to swine flu. But that point in time, the media wasn't that active. So nobody knew exactly what happened.
What has swapped, right?
Right. And we gave them the flu vaccine. And even now, flu vaccines comes every year based on the strains which the WHO tells you that which are these strains. Still, nobody takes it. The adult vaccination in our country is not even 1%.
Oh, okay. That's very bad.
There is enough to do in the industry even today. In fact, if somebody wants to really do it, one can actually choose that in what kind of particular businesses he would like to grow. So vaccine is one, diabetes is another, respiratory is another business, where you can innovate and you can implement what you want. And I think companies also give you that kind of a space to really operate and leverage, as long as they see that kind of a results coming.
Yes. Very true, sir. As you very rightly said, it's always necessary to keep your cup half empty so that you can pour in new things.
Absolutely.
Very, very necessary, sir. So any specific attributes that you would recommend for the younger generation to have or to practice to be able to reach to what you have achieved so far? Like you have had a glorious experience. So anything that you would recommend for certain attributes that we should be following?
Yeah, I have always been recommending one thing, and the same thing I also recommend to my kids, right? So they are as good as my kids.
Right.
One thing I can say that, be open to work anywhere in the world. Don't get, that no, I would like to become a managing director, but I would like to have it only in Satara because I come from Satara. That's not going to work for you, right? So be open to changes, be open to go to places. During my tenure of last more than 3 decades, I worked every nook and corner of this country in various capacities. And during that whole journey, I also took my kids along with me.
Oh, wow. All right.
So my son, by the time he cleared his 10th ICSE, that was his 10th school.
Okay.
Right. So during that time, he also had an exposure of 1 year in the US, 2 years in China, then out here in Orissa, then West Bengal, and Delhi, and then Bombay. So my point is that if you get an opportunity anywhere in the country, and especially if you are young and if you don't have so much, because everybody will say, no, I have a problem. But who doesn't have a problem?
Right.
Everybody has a problem, but you need to prioritize what you want to do. Because if you will go to different places, you will understand the mindset of people at different places. You will understand that what kind of actually mentality do they bring, and it helps you as a marketer in the long run to create a broad-based strategies. Because because gone are those days in the pharma industry when you could create one visual aid which is applicable to all the 50,000 doctors in the country. Today, the time has changed. You need to be regional specific, maybe even state specific. What exactly do you want to communicate? Will it fly with those doctors? So I think the entire gambit is changing.
Right. Right.
So I would strongly recommend that don't uh, be very stubborn on not going to places. I think you should go places, you should see places, you should work with different sets of people, and that helps you to evolve as a great leader in the near future.
Absolutely. Very true, sir. Thank you so much for this answer. Uh, what would be the growth prospects if I talk from the different domains that you have handled? Like you have been into sales, you have been into marketing, you have been into regulatory as well. So, any one specific domain that you would like to talk about, and what are the growth prospects available for the students in that particular domain?
Well, I think the growth aspects in each of these functions are equal.
Okay.
Okay. Now, my point is that you would like to know what are your own strengths, which will take you where.
Right.
Right. I would strongly recommend that if you ask the current generation about their strengths, right, they get confused between their strengths and their competencies. Now, strengths and competencies are two different aspects. One is your inherent strength, on which you see if you are a great communicator, you are a great communicator.
Right.
And if you are a great communicator, then obviously you should be in sales and marketing.
Right.
Right. So, and there is a very simple tool to identify your top 5 strengths. Now, I'm sure you all must have gone through that, but just to reiterate for the others to really look at it. See, there is this Strength Finder version 2.
Okay.
This is by Tom, and this is a very good psychometric tool. It's a book of some 699 rupees, and
Okay.
once you log in and once you do all that psychometric analysis, it throws your top 5 strengths.
Okay.
And based on those top 5 strengths, you decide where you want to go. Because because I have used this tool with many of my associates in the past, and it works wonderfully well.
Oh, wow. All right.
So I would strongly recommend, those who are actually listening to us that, at least they should use this Strength Finder, look at their strength, and possibly they can even incorporate those strengths in their CVs.
Absolutely.
Because it is very important to really look at that. So that is one thing. Based on that, but as I said, there are equal job opportunities, equal growth opportunities, both in sales, marketing, distribution.
Right.
Because today distribution is getting evolved, and today most of the companies have this cold chain infrastructure coming in place, and obviously they are using a lot of tools like artificial intelligence and cloud computing in terms of various data points and all that, so they can be there. Somebody who has done his finance can also look at the finance roles in the pharma space. But I think one domain where we have a lot of gap is the regulatory affairs. If somebody can master the regulatory affairs and can pitch in for the regulatory position, that's a very good position.
Oh, all right.
From a marketing perspective, I think the current set of marketeers would also face challenges because there are a lot of MBBS students who are coming in as MBBS MBA degree, and they are coming into medical marketing.
Right.
And most of the companies are very keen for such kind of profiles.
So they help as medical advisors as well.
Yeah, they are also as a medical advisor, but I see a lot of them actually moving into marketing now.
Right. Yes. So, sir, this question is just a little bit off text. What I have personally observed is there are a lot of marketing people who have pursued their pharma MBA and then have joined some pharma company. But it has been my personal observation with after talking to a lot of people that every time the degree is not enough. Like there are people who have had the same degree and with the same starting placements and still making like 2-3 years down the line have a completely different career with respect to promotions or lateral or vertical growths. But so what exactly does that signify? Like, is the degree the important part, or is it the attribute that is the important part?
I don't think so degree has any relevance in today's context because, as I said, it's all theoretical.
Right.
One can read a lot of degree, but what is important is that you have to evolve with the times. You will have to evolve looking at the new concepts which are coming into marketing. Right? People were, used to 4 Ps of marketing, and even the, textbooks are still talking about 4 Ps. But if you ask me honestly, there are 9 Ps of marketing.
Oh, okay.
Now, unless you, deep down into it and then, look at it and then evolve yourself. So that is one aspect. Second is that, people, those who go directly into the marketing, actually miss out what exactly do they need to communicate to the sales teams. But if you have worked in sales for the first 2 years of your career and then move into marketing, then it becomes more easy because you will be able to relate a lot of things, and your messaging from your communication aspects goes very well with the sales teams. Right. And the sales teams will also not challenge because he or she knows that this particular person also has the experience of sales.
Right.
Otherwise, normally what happens is that there is always a rift between sales and marketing. The sales guys say, "Arey, aap AC mein baithte ho, you give fundas." Right? But when you come to the field, you will realize what exactly happens. Right. So if a person has the first initial 2-3 years of experience in sales and then they move into marketing, I think it will augur very well for them in terms of their personal growth. Right. Because the sales experience in the current context of hierarchy is a must, because even if you want to become a BU head, you would have to have an experience of sales somewhere.
Right.
And then we are also missing out on one thing, that if you have done initial sales as a rep, great. You come into the product management team, become a product manager, but after being a product manager for a couple of years, move into a leadership role.
Okay.
In the sales team.
Right.
Go as a zonal sales manager, or go as a sales manager looking after some 50-60 people, because that will also allow you to evolve as a great leader. And plus it will also allow you to sharpen your skills. So at least good companies, they always, rotate the job functions. But Indian companies, especially the, mid-sized companies or the lower mid-sized companies, they don't go, they're not bothered. You will have to really take a call, what exactly is good for me and what do I want to do.
Absolutely. Perfect.
So that's the only thing I would suggest.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. And sir, one very important question. How did you plan your career? Like, was it planned to get into the pharma domain, or how things happened for you?
Well, I tell you, frankly speaking, I came by accident into this profession. Because during the time when we passed out, there was no campus placements in 1987.
Okay.
And I'm talking about a company like the college. Like, I did my MBA from FMS Delhi.
Great. Okay. All right.
But we still had to those handwritten applications used to go to the companies, and then the companies would call you for a personal interviews. There was no Zoom, there was no telephones, nothing. So I got into Modi Xerox during that time, right? And I got into Hext. But since I had a microbiology background, I chose to come into the pharma space. Having come into the space, I knew that what this pharma industry is all about. And what happens is that as a youngster, when you start to get money, and big time money, then you just don't know what you want to do. But I think I had some great seniors who actually guided me that, boss, you have a great future, you have a great degree, you are very good, you can do wonders. And I think that helped me in terms of evolving me as an individual. And then I chose to be in the same company for 26 years.
Great.
So from a management trainee position, I reached the pinnacle of commercial director South Asia for Sanofi. So Hext became Hext Marion Russell, Hext Marion Russell became Avantis, Avantis became Sanofi Avantis, Sanofi Avantis became Sanofi. But I was very much there because I was contributing. So obviously they never wanted me to leave.
Absolutely.
In today's context, what is happening is that people change jobs the way they change their clothes. Every 2 years, 3 years. So what happens is that people may get a hike of 15-20%, which looks very, very deceptive, I would say. But in the long run, after 10 years of service, had you been in the same company, possibly you would have grown much faster and your package would have been much better.
Okay. All right.
So I personally feel that you should have a little patience, pick up a right company before you join. Don't jump the gun just because you need a job, so you will get it. Wait for 2 months, 3 months until unless you don't get a good company, don't join. But
Right.
once you join, give your best, the company will also reciprocate. That is for sure. I have seen it, and especially good companies, they also need good people.
Absolutely.
And good people also require good company.
Absolutely. Very true. So you would recommend an organic growth over an inorganic growth any day?
Yes, it is always better because it is actually sustainable.
Right. Yes. Back when I was also in GlaxoSmithKline, I have seen a lot of my senior managers having an experience of more than 20, 25, 29 years and still in the same company, and they were at a very great position. So I learned from them as well that organic was always a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So if you're into reading books, like self-development books, one thing you already said that meeting a lot of people would help you evolve. At the same time, there would be something that you might be into reading. If you could suggest some self-development books or any book that you would recommend for our students that they
So
can
I
read
think,
and try to grow.
well, I think I'm a very vociferous reader. I can't show you here because otherwise I have a small library, and if I look at the number of books and the cost involved in the books, I think I would have a library of more than 10 lakh rupees.
Oh my God! All right.
Right, and I think I read everything. Means the point is that I would not recommend to management students to read management books. No, it doesn't work because you have already done all that scrap over the period of 2 years, 3 years. You don't need to, but yes, there are good books like, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. The Eighth Habit is a good book. What got you here would not get you there. So these kind of books will allow you to think a little differently and into a different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Right. I don't know it is with me, but I do a lot of reading of autobiographies. So practically, I have the autobiography of practically all the big guys, because you learn a lot out of those reading books. That all of these have actually gone through a very, very strenuous period before they became what they became.
Right.
If somebody is today looking at from a financial perspective or marketing perspective, I would recommend a new book which has just come up. It is called The Key Management Ratios, and it is by Peter Fisk. So it allows you to understand that what kind of spend ratios that you would require in terms of marketing, in terms of sales, in terms of distribution. And it's a very good book. And in one go, you may not understand anything. Let me be very upfront in saying that, because it took me a while. I read it at least thrice before I could understand 50% of it.
Okay.
But those are newer concepts, especially the youngsters are more brainy. So obviously, if they go through those books, it's going to help them. But my point is that make it a point, make it a habit to read, but read it in English. Don't read it in your regional languages. It's not going to help you.
Right. True. Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for this message. And so one last question from my end, and then we will invite the students. So any general motivational message for the students who have been struggling right now, some students with respect to their academics and some students with respect to their jobs because of the COVID pandemic, things have become very uncertain for many of them. So any message that you would like to share for the students?
Well, I personally would advise to have a little calm, to be a little calm, because pharma industry has bounced back, and it's bounced back very, very strongly. Last 2 months already, we are seeing a double-digit growth.
Right.
So all those hiring and the freezing that had happened in the pharma space, it's all being lifted. So just wait for another 15, 20 days. Hopefully by January, everything will get opened up. Right.
Right.
I would suggest that try to find out through LinkedIn and all that the HR profiles of the companies that you intend to apply. Write a very, very nice mails to all the HR. Right. Some of the HRs may not even respond to you back, but don't worry about it, because when you are going to write some 20 mails, at least 2 will respond, and even if those 2 will respond, I think it's good enough, because there are still good people in the industry, and there are people who would actually empathize with the situation that the students are in, right? And as I said, look at those companies who actually take management trainees. So I can name a few in the MNC aspects. You can look at Sanofi. You can you can look at your old organization GSK. Then you can look at MST. Then you can look at Mylan. So you can approach the HR directly.
Right.
Hey guys, I'm here. I got stuck because of this COVID-19 situation. Can you help me with some kind of a role in your organization? Cipla could be another company in the Indian context. Glenmark is a great company to work with in terms of the management training. So there are lots and lots of companies, at least 25, 30 companies I can give you online, those where you will approach, possibly you will get a reverse.
Right.
So do that. Those who are struggling with their studies, I would suggest you that you have no other choices but to complete your degree. So try to complete it. The real percentage doesn't matter. Whether you get getting 58% or 64% or A grade or B grade doesn't matter. What matters is your soft skills in terms of your communication, the way you communicate, your power of guessing, your email etiquette. So work on your softer skills side by side, because that will allow you to move much faster as compared to your own colleagues.
Absolutely. Very true, sir. Thank you so much for this answer. Sir, now with your permission, if we can invite the students.
Please, no worries.
I'm planning to do masters in clinical research, and I'm going abroad for it. So are there any points will you like to help me out with? Like there are so many things that we don't know being in academics. So practically some points that you can help me with.
Well, clinical research, as I said, is a field which is predominantly which are with the companies, those who are into their own manufacturing, and especially in the biosimilar space or biopharmaceutical space. So because they are the ones, they would require these kind of candidates, for their clinical, research and clinical trials, because you have to set the protocols and everything. Because so obviously, and if you are going abroad, then obviously you will have to focus on the MNCs, those who really do that. So I would like to know in which part of the world are you planning to go? Are you going to the US, or are you going to go to actually Canada?
USA.
If you are going to the US, then you could target companies like Gilead. You can target companies like MSD, and obviously if you are doing it from some of the reputed institute, this clinical research, you will get a on-campus internship itself. So you don't have to worry, because these are very, very specific fields, and there is a dearth of people in terms of the clinical research. So I think you have chosen a good field to be in. But as I said, you only target now those big MNCs, US-based MNCs, if you want to go there, because the kind of money that you want to spend there, obviously the return on investment can only come from the US-based companies. Yeah. So please try to be very, very clear, focused, that so if you go to the sites of, Gilead, if you go to the sites of MSD, Bristol Myers Squibb, all these companies, actually post a lot of positions for their internship positions. Gilead this year, for their clinical research, has hired more than 55 people in the US, and out of these 55, 40 are Indians. So, if you are going to the US, and especially if you are on the West Coast side, then obviously you can look at targeting the places like Miami in actually Florida, or New York City, where these companies are based.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Siddhi, if you would like to ask a question.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Being a student, sometimes there are feelings like a downward feeling on not the things are not going the way which I want. So, what are the motivations? Or what are the principal ethics that you follow while you are not while the works are not getting by the way you want? What are the principal or ethics that you follow?
Sorry, this is who?
Siddhi.
Siddhi.
Siddhi, in fact, what I would suggest you here is that it's all in the minds, right? If you decide in the morning that I would like to have a bad day, you would have a bad day. If you feel that today is going to be my best day, it's going to be your best day. There is nothing. See, there is no vaccine which can be given to motivate you, right? But I think, as I said, it's all in the minds, and it's the question of meeting the right people. I don't know what's your schedule, but I strongly recommend this particular schedule, although I've been trying to even recommend to my kids, but they don't follow. That's a different issue. Getting up in the morning and going for a jog will always make you feel much better. But the current generation sleeps till 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon because they have their late nights going on till 2:33. So, and that also, once you are playing with your own cycle of your sleeping cycle, this also leads to frustration. And when things do not fall in place the way you want it to fall, then you only keep thinking about it, because when you get up in the morning, late in the morning, then you are already half depressed. So if you are in a depressed mind, then obviously you will only think negative. You will never think positive. So my strong recommendations would be that I'm right from the my early days. I've been an early riser. Even today, I get up at 6 o'clock, go for a walk of at least 4-5 kilometers, come do some little exercise here and there, and then read my newspaper very well, because I'm still not used to reading the news in mobile or laptop. I'm more comfortable reading it the way it is. So I think this is something that you can do. Second is that you, as I said in my talk, that you can read a lot of actually autobiography of the good people. You can read, even the last one that I had was of Mr. Anupam Kher. And you read his autobiography. He has gone through he has really gone through very tough times rather than what he has become today. And that autobiography is very well, written, very simple to understand. Read such books, because that will give somewhere at the back of your mind, it will help you to correlate things with your own self, and that will allow you to move forward.
Thank you so much, sir.
So my question was regarding vaccines. So now, as we are expecting the indigenous vaccine to roll out very soon, when can we expect the entire country to be vaccinated, and can it really create a herd immunity?
Okay. Yeah. Well, Rasika, if you ask me honestly, I'm a bit surprised looking at Bharat Biotech, or looking at Pfizer, or looking at Moderna vaccines, and there are 128 candidates in the world today. But if you ask me, being in the vaccine industry, I have stayed pretty long in the vaccine industry to understand this. A normal vaccine takes minimum 5 to 8 years to really get developed, right? And I think more than the corona thing, we have a lot of population dying of AIDS. Do we have an AIDS vaccine till today? No. Second is the fastest vaccine which came onto the surface, onto the world, was the Ebola virus vaccine. But it also took 5.5 years. So the vaccine that you are getting, if the efficacy is only 55 or 60% or 65%, it doesn't make any sense for me to really take that vaccine, because my recovery rate in my country is almost 94%. So does it make a sense for me to really take a vaccine? That is number one. Number two, the part of herd immunity, again, it's quite debatable whether this particular vaccine is if it is a genetically modeled vaccine, as people say, it came out from a Wuhan lab. If it's a genetically a molded vaccine, then the herd immunity will hardly come, and it will come at a very late stage. But if it is a normal virus, then obviously by this time, with the kind of population that India has and the kind of exposure that has, we are already seeing that in one of the slums in Bombay, 3 out of 4 people have the antibodies for corona. So the herd immunity is already there. And if the transmission gets stopped by even 50% of the people being vaccinated, the rest of the 50% of this country would not require a vaccine. Rasika?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
I hope I'm able to make you understand what exactly is the situation currently.
Sonali, if you would like to ask the question again.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question was that with such a vast experience, what challenges have you faced when it comes to the management of people around you or working along with you?
Okay. Sorry, I missed your question completely. Sonali, in fact, I think I have not had many challenges with the people because those who know me would always tell you one thing that I was quite people friendly in terms of people being connected. And the reason was very simple because I have always followed one practice of entering the shoes of the individuals before answering them or before even getting into their problems. Nobody by virtue of being an individual would like to be bad to anybody. It is the circumstances that makes him good or bad. So if you are able to identify what the problem is and then take up measures, I think it goes very very well. And I think the one thing that most of the managers or leaders miss out is that they don't confront reality, right? And and people feel that by just pepping up the guys, we can get the things done, and then give him some false promises that after 2 years you will become this and after 3 years you will become this. No, if the guy is competent, he will himself become that. So it is very very important to be very very transparent and confront realities. If the guy is bad, he's bad. You have to tell him on the face that, boss, this is not working. Whereas the current context of leadership is that you can't play to the galleries every time. You have to confront reality. And there's a beautiful book on this confronting reality. You were asking me on that book, it just came to my mind. There's a book called Confronting Reality by Ramcharan. It's a beautiful book to read. I would strongly recommend all of you to read that book, Confronting Reality by Ramcharan.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
So we have our last student, Sujata, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Sujata.
So, good morning.
Morning.
Sir, you said artificial intelligence and cloud computing. So, what is cloud computing, sir?
Cloud computing is similar to artificial intelligence, but in cloud computing, you can use the different platforms that you have, and you can either use it into the public domain or a private domain. Big companies would always create their own private domain, and there are companies like IBM who actually provide you this cloud computing platform to store all your data, and which could be accessed at any given point in time. And these kind of data would always help you in terms of R&D. Then it's going to help you in terms of distribution, and it's also going to help you in terms of marketing, in terms of actually collating the data and then doing the segmentation and targeting, and then actually sending the precise messages. So cloud computing and artificial intelligence both go parallelly, but both are the need of this industry at this point in time. If somebody can really work on these aspects, he can be the chief, technological officer in that company and can be highly rewarded. So most of the biopharmaceutical companies like Biocon in India, Bharat Biotech, Panacea Biotech, the Serum Institute of India are the companies who are actually into cloud computing and artificial intelligence both.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for this answer. And I think we have the last student. We already had the last student asking, Sujata. And once again, I would like to thank you on the behalf of the entire team of PharmaCAD for sharing your experience and sharing your time with us. I'm pretty sure the viewers who are going to watch this later will have lots to learn, and there are certain good messages. One of them was keeping the cup empty, trying to learn new things as much as possible. Something I'm very curious to know if you'd like to share, sir. What are the 9 Ps according to you?
That would take some more time here.
All right, no problem.
But I will send it to you on the email, which you can incorporate in the
Definitely. Perfect. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us at the Leadership Lab, and thank you, students, for joining as well. Take care, sir. Bye, sir. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for watching the Leadership Lab. If you have any questions for our speakers or any suggestions for us, you can email to us on pharmacad.mumbai@gmail.com, and the title of the email should be the Leadership Lab. and we shall try to send your questions to the speakers and get the answers at the earliest. Thank you so much for supporting. Keep watching. Take care.